All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Scott. Today I'm joined by
Dara Burlow.
And today we're going to talk about ArcGIS Insights. Today's topic, we're just going to cover the basics. So as if you had never seen the product before, we're going to first dive into, hey, what is this thing, Insights? And specifically then go a little bit deeper into data prep, exploratory analysis, spatial and statistical analysis. Then once we've created something that we're proud of, hey, let's share it in the form of a report or maybe even an analytical model. And we'll wrap it all up with talking about what's coming up and where you can go next for some resources. All right, so what is ArcGIS Insights? Well, we like to say that it's self-service location analytics. It combines mapping, traditional analytics, and charting, all within one spot. And we're really integrating that spatial component with that traditional tabular analysis component so that everybody across your org can use it and have access to the value of spatial. We allow others that typically can't access this analytical functionality to perform statistical, spatial, exploratory analysis so that you can predict and use things like link analysis or graph analysis, and even extend insights through Python and R. Doing all that, you can connect to your enterprise GIS. Of course, this is an ArcGIS product. You can connect to ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Enterprise, even flat files on your shared drives or desktop, and then your enterprise business data. These are the relational databases that contain that business systems content. Oracle, SQL Server, SAP HANA, Postgres. We want to allow all different roles and personas to do that. And this is possible. Insights is available as a SaaS through ArcGIS Online within your enterprise, ArcGIS Enterprise, and then locally on a Windows or Mac computer. So I had said that Insights is designed to make spatial the value of spatial analysis available to others. You don't have to any longer be a GIS professional, right? Once you do that work, regardless of whether you're a GIS analyst or a data scientist or a business analyst, once you do that work, you want to get it off of your desk, right? Really get some value out of what you've created, and do that in the form of a report, and give it to somebody that just wants to interact with it. Give them a dashboard. Give them something to see that valuable information product you made. You can also take the model that you've developed and share that with other analysts. Other analysts can then extend upon that analysis and use it for themselves, or even just kind of learn from what you did. And lastly, all the analysis data that you produce within Insights is there for you to keep. It's there for you to reuse. It's open. Go ahead and export it, use it, or save it. Use it in other ArcGIS products, or even use it in other non-ArcGIS products. It could be a valuable chain, valuable part of your analysis tool chain. Just to hit this home one more time, Insights accesses both business data, tabular data, and spatial data in one spot. And it allows you to do either a workflow or jump in and do one of these things. It doesn't matter. Capabilities include data preparation, enabling your data spatially, or geo-enablement. This also includes geo-enrichment. And then analysis, exploring that data, and to find questions to ask. Once you have those questions, do things like spatial and statistical analysis. All that is modeled for you behind the scenes, so you can repeat that analysis yourself or share it with others. And that sharing part includes the analytical models and, of course, the information products or reports or dashboards. Today we're going to go into these details. ArcGIS Insights is available in ArcGIS Online, in a web browser, in ArcGIS Enterprise, also as a web client app, and now locally on Windows or Mac. Yeah, it can be installed natively on your laptop or machine. Now this desktop deployment option is relatively newer, and let's talk about that just a little bit. So for the past couple years, you would have Insights in a browser available in Online or Enterprise. Well, guess what? Now you can connect Insights Desktop to that org that you're working with. It's just another option for you. It's not a different product. It's the same product. Now you just have the option. Do you want to use it as a client, a thick client on your computer, or do you want to use it in a web browser? It's not a different product, not a different license. You get access to both. Insights Desktop allows you to leverage your local processing power. The license is stored locally. Data is stored locally. You can also connect to your relational databases. Now this is one of the things that it has beneficial over Insights in ArcGIS Online. You can connect to the supported relational databases, Oracle SQL Server, SAP HANA, Postgres, and even SQL Azure. Python and R is also possible. If you have your own notebook or Jupyter kernel that you want to connect to, absolutely. With Insights Desktop, connect to it, do analysis, connect to more data sources through Python and R. And when you connect to an online or enterprise org, you can do more. Take advantage of those location-based services. And guess what? You can even connect to multiple orgs. Insights Desktop supports connecting to multiple enterprises, an online org, and multiple enterprises even. You can go ahead and download this today. Just go to our product webpage, hit the deployment options tab at the top, and the desktop option, and go ahead and download it. Anybody can download it, but you will need to have that licensed named user to log in and use it. What I want to do here is just jump out real quick and show you an example of what a finished Insights information product or report might look like. So I just went to the web browser and we're on our product page here. We had talked about downloading Insights Desktop, and that's where you would do that here on the desktop deployment option page. But I'm going to hop over to the gallery. And I'd encourage you to just kind of check this out, play around, see some of the examples that we have. Whatever your industry is, hopefully you should find something that relates to you. I'm going to go ahead and show you one example that is in this gallery. This is an example created by the South Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, and it's communicating opioid treatment facilities. So, as an end user, I know nothing about ArcGIS Insights or ArcGIS. I just go to this URL. I can now start to interact with this report, and you see that what I can take away with it is interact with it, see where the highest population without access is, so that, hey, maybe there should be some treatment facilities located around here. Another example is an example by the Scotland Fishery Department, I believe. But this is also an interactive example where you could see the way or reason that these fish had actually escaped. And let's see, I was interested to maybe find out where have predators been a significant factor in fish escaping. And we can start to see where those locations are. All that, again, information is presented to us and interactive, so that we can see that in this chart here, for those predators, those escapes caused by predators, these are the common regions. These are the most common regions. And again, all that is interactive. And you'll see that when I do these interactions, other cards are updated for me. So I kind of feel like I'm doing maybe a little bit of analysis here. All right. So we saw a couple examples of what finished products will look like within Insights. Let's move on here to talk about the UI, what it actually looks like when you're using the product as an analyst. Apologies, one moment here. It looks like my slide deck is... Let's go ahead and restart PowerPoint. Okay, we'll pick right back up where we left off here. Okay, so what was it, Dara? A couple weeks ago? A couple months ago?
About a month ago.
About a month ago. We did an update to Insights, and if you haven't checked it out recently, you'll notice that it's got a little bit of a new look and feel. So I just want to do a brief overview. This whole UI of Insights, we call it a workbook. At the top, you'll see a workbook title. Now, similar to Microsoft Excel, you'll see it at the bottom. We have pages, and these tabs or pages contain individual analyses. Within each page, you have cards and widgets, and this is what has the tables and charts and maps. On the left, you have the data pane. That's where all the content is. Now at the top, this is where a lot of the functionality is seen and coming from. This is where you add data, create a map, create a chart, create a table, create relationships, undo, redo, save. You can access your widgets, that scripting console that we talked about, both Python and R, change the base maps, switch over to analysis view, and have access to the settings to control some of the colors and other way that your page looks. With that, let's move on now and talk a little bit more about data prep specifically. We had highlighted this somewhat of a workflow earlier. What we want to do is deep dive on data prep, and I would argue, data prep isn't really fully data prep if you're not geo-enabling that data. So, first of all, we got to connect to the data, right? Insights connects to flat files, enterprise GIS, relational databases, and if we don't have a data connector, bring it in with Python and R. That's what it's there for. Once you do connect to that data and pull it in, Insights semantically models it, and by that I mean it interprets your data and tells you, hey, this is what kind of data it is. It's a location field or a shape field. Maybe it's a numeric, a ratio, categorical time. And even the time data, we break it up into its constituent subcomponents here. So the data that we're looking at, no, it does not have a year field or a quarter or a month field, but Insights interprets that time data and pulls out that so you can use it. And we use this to make smart decisions for you, smart defaults. We try to make it easy for you. We talked about enabling location, geo-enablement. Extremely important. There are many ways that you could do this, right? Or at least a few. You might have coordinates, lat longs, x, y's, and Insights supports, I think it's like 5,000 different spatial reference coordinate systems. Addresses. Yeah, get down to the rooftop or driveway point level accuracy. That has support for points of interest globally, and we support either one single line address or multiple. And then lastly, geography. You're going to want to probably spatially enable not just points, but you might have lines or boundary data. And this can be either boundaries, states, counties, zips, provinces. Those are well-known boundaries that Insights comes with. You can use those or bring your own. Bring your own boundaries, and you can definitely match those up as long as you have that primary foreign key that you can do that relationship with. Something unique about Insights is that we have support for multiple spatial fields, multiple shape fields. That's pretty powerful, especially when, as we'll see a little bit later, you try to do some stuff like link analysis and even visualizing your data and exploring it in different ways, maybe once as a coordinate and once as a polygon. Enrichment. Now, once your data is spatially enabled, Esri, we spend a lot of time and, quite honestly, money assembling and curating demographic, environmental, and business data for you to use. You can append it onto your existing content, and so that your data becomes then more valuable and you can do even more with it. The best known example for this, I think, is probably Business Analyst. And those exact same data sets that are available in Business Analyst can be used in Insights. Oftentimes, you're going to have multiple data sets, multiple tables that you want to relate. Insights can do both simple and complex joins and relationships. Do that, pull them together. It could be with one field, multiple fields, inner, outer, right, left joins. Yeah, we do it all. And this, by the way, will even work on the spatial field. So you can perform spatial relates through this. Now, to walk us through some of this and actually show us what the heck I'm talking about, can you help us out here?
Yes, thanks, Scott.
Right.
And so I'm going to show you today an example using Lyft bike data from Lyft.com. So here's the website that I'm using. The data I've downloaded, and it has fields such as the start time and end time, the start location of where the different bikes are, and the end location, as well as like whether it's a subscriber or a member, a customer that are using it, and just a little bit of data about the customer themselves. And this is all within the Bay Area. So I'm going to hop over to Insights. Today I'm using Insights Desktop. So it's first thing I'm going to do is, this is the workbook I've already opened up. It's a brand new workbook. I'm going to add the data that I've previously downloaded. And I'm going to add the Lyft data as well as some block group, USA block group data. I'm going to add that to my workbook. And you can see it comes in, the spatial data comes in with as a card. And first what I'm going to do is, as you can see, this is the data, same data that you kind of saw on the website. There's start time, end time, start duration, end duration, and information about the customer. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new field. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the data table on the options. I go data set options. I'm going to hit view data table. And this is the raw data of behind the scenes of what you're working with. I'm going to hit new field, and I want to calculate the total time it takes from one location to another location. So I'm going to do the time difference using some of the functions that are readily available. And I'm going to time diff the start time minus the end time of this one bike. And I want to see that time in minutes. I'm going to run that, and you can see as it calculates, it puts a calculation in for everyone. And I'm going to rename this field called total time in minutes. I'm going to close this data table. You'll see at the very end of the table it added that field for me right here. Now, also to prepare the data, I know that later on I'm going to be using this member birth year field, and right now it's currently set as a numeric field, but I want to be able to use that as a string field. So I'm going to do that, and the next thing I want to do is then I know that I want to find out, spatially enable the locations. So I'm going to enable based on the start longitude. I'm going to run that. And as Scott said, we can enable many locations on the data set, provided that the data is there. But before I go and enable it a second time, I'm going to rename this field. So this is my start locations. And I'm going to go do that again. And I'm going to end locations. So I'm going to put the end longitude and end latitude. I'm going to run that. I'm going to rename that location. And now I want to see that on a map. I'm just going to drag the start location. I'm going to click on that and drag it over to the map drop zone of a new card. You can see all the bikes in the Bay Area. Next thing I want to do is I want to be able to use this block group data, but I want to filter it down to Santa Clara County. So I just want this one area in here, and I'm going to filter this block group data down. So I'm going to go with the create a data set filter by going to the county, and I'm going to deselect all of the values, and I'm going to search for Santa Clara because that's the area that I know that we're working with. I'm going to apply that, and you'll see that it's this block group data has been filtered down to that. To finish up, I'm going to rename my workbook. I'm going to call this Bike Rentals. I'm going to give the page a name, and I'm going to name this card. I'm going to save that, and now we're ready for Scott to tell us a little bit more before I go on.
Thank you, Dara. Okay, so what do? We prepped our data, right? We calced some fields, we did some filters, and now we're ready to maybe just explore that data a little bit more. Create some charts, maps, tables, interact with it, pull in other reference layers, whether it's organizational content or Living Atlas or just publicly accessible content. And again, really explore it, scrutinize it, become familiar with it. And maybe, hopefully at the end of our exploration, we'll have some solid questions that we actually want to ask of that data. And Insights can then help us do that. What are we talking about here? Charting. We have almost upward of almost 20 different chart types, and we're looking to always add new ones that are valuable to you. We have, I think, a little bit about a dozen different mapping techniques that we can use. Again, looking to add these as they're needed by different organizations. It might be at some times a little bit intimidating or, like just some work to figure out what is the best visualization technique for my data. What am I trying to present? What am I trying to communicate? We have this cheat sheet out there that tries to help out, and it categorizes these visualization techniques by whether you're trying to measure something, show the relationship, show the change, distribution, etc. And I'd encourage you to check this out. Again, if you go to our product page, esri.com/insights, there's a resource tab at the top where this is one of those assets for you to utilize. By default, when you create Insights cards, they're all selectable, and selections in one card will be honored in the other. If you want to do a little bit more than that, something a little bit different, you can filter or cross-filter them. Cross-filter is this little button at the top at the cards, and those cards that have cross-filters enabled will honor selections in one, filtering only those selected records in the others. I hope this makes sense. Dara will, I know, go through an example so that it really hits home. Tables. As you explore your data, you're going to want to dig in, see the actual records. The data table shows you everything. It shows you the entire data set. That's where Dara calced a new field in the previous demo. The data table is not part of something that's shared with your viewers. You only see the data table as an analyst. Now there's also a summary table, and the summary table is, hey, it summarizes, right? It basically pulls out the significance, allows you to display statistics. This is what's interactive with the other chart and map cards, and this is included with your shared page and is available to your Insights viewers. And just, kind of hit home the example of exploratory analysis. If you wanted to Easily identify where water meters are dead or broken. Put it on a box plot. That outlier should pop out pretty quick. If you wanted to see home assessment values, where should they maybe be reassessed? Create a scatter plot. Those outliers should pop out. And then a tree map. That's another good example. Simply show the common types of government service requests, and those boxes that are largest, those are the most common. Just exploring the data.
Okay. So picking up from where we left off before, first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to filter this data down, the bike data down to the location of Santa Clara County. So I'm going to take that block group data that we filtered down just to Santa Clara, and I'm going to apply that onto the bike data. So to do that, I'm just going to take the location, I'm going to drag and drop it, and you can see that there's 3 new drop zones for an existing card for a map. And the one I'm going to select is filter by the selected feature. I'm going to accept the defaults, and I'm going to run. As I run that, you can see that we are now filtered down into the Santa Clara, just the bikes that are in the Santa Clara area. Now with this, I want to be able to stylize it by different field types. Here I'm going to use the user type so that we can figure out what kind of users we have. So we have, here we see, I just dragged and dropped the user field onto the map, and you can see the customers are in the orange and the subscribers are in blue. So there's quite a few more subscribers than there are customers. Next, I'm going to create a chart of the birth year. So I want to see what the distribution of cohorts are. So I'm going to drag and drop the birth year onto a chart. So you can see that it comes up with a bar chart by default. And if that's not the type of visualization that I would like, I can easily click on the visualization type button and change that to something like a column chart or a tree map or, a bubble chart. But the one that makes sense today for me is this column chart. I want to take this and I'm going to drag and drop that as a summary table. So we can see the count of users by year, of their birth year. I'm going to sort that descending so that you can see all the values here. Now, the cards are interactive, so the ones that are using the same data set, you can see if I select on different things, it's highlighted in both the map and the chart and the table. So if I click on the map, you can see all the subscribers that are in both all cards that apply to that. So here we see we have from 1991, and 1991 is highlighted on the table, and everywhere that 1991 people have used the bike. Now, as Scott was pointing out in the slides, we have this feature called cross filters, and that will filter out all of the data and show only the data rather than selecting the data. So here you can see if I select on 1995, it filters out everything but 1995. Now I am kind of interested in this 1995 category because this is the number, like the most of the users and subscribers are from this year. And we'll come back to this a little later, but I'll let Scott talk about spatial and statistical analysis right now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dara. Yeah, so we explored a little bit, and I think now that we have a better idea what's in the data, we found a trend, what we think is a trend. Maybe we want to go, why? Why is that, or where are all these, it appears like a cluster of people occurring. We have other questions that we might have now. And we can do that through spatial and statistical analysis. Starting out with, as simple as descriptive statistics, regression analysis, link analysis. And if there isn't an analysis capability in Insights out of the box, pull it in with Python and R. And the same with spatial analysis, finding out how is it distributed, related, what's nearby. And so really, again, what we're doing here is we're we're answering questions, and we're running a process or a method or a procedure. Once we do that, the results are then presented in Insights in the form of a derivative data set. And you can iterate on top of that analysis result to do more. Or, again, kick it out for other systems or other applications. Analysis is presented in Insights through the action button. And the action button is on the bottom right-hand corner of the chart and map cards. Once you click it, you really see two options. You'll see Find Answers, which is useful when you don't know the process that you want to run. But you do maybe know the type of thing you're looking for. Maybe you want to find out how is it related. Well, click on that and you'll see the tools that give you that capability. If you know exactly what analysis procedure you want to run, go right to spatial analysis and you can see the options available for you there. We have more than a half a dozen spatial analysis techniques. I know we have a few more planned for our next release. And we're, again, always looking to add more and more. We're building on top of this analysis portfolio, similar to statistical analysis techniques. A couple things we want to really pull out and highlight for you is link maps, sometimes called link or graph analysis. And this is possible spatially through a map, or we can do a simple link chart as well, non-spatial. Oftentimes, when this is not communicating directionality and basically showing connectivity, how things are related. The thicker the line, it means the stronger they're related, or the thicker the node, it also means the more gravity towards it. And that's sometimes called the spider line, maybe a desire line. When there is directionality or flow, sometimes called a flow map, as you'll see in the bottom picture, and that shows movement. Centrality metrics, we have a few options available for you. This is the math really behind the scenes, and depending on exactly the use case that you're looking at, you can choose the appropriate technique. We have some detailed documentation on this, and another session, more advanced analytics that I encourage you to check out. You know, it might not seem like this type of analysis applies to you, but I'd encourage you to give it a shot. It's not just for the spread of diseases, or it's not just for understanding, you know, the crime boss hierarchy. You can do things like really understand the critical points of failure in electrical transmissions or roads and other infrastructure. Logistics is a great example. Finding out how maybe key pieces in your chain for assembling different products and goods, where those points are relying on. And just any scenario where connectivity, it's all about understanding relationships. Another thing that I'd like to really highlight is regression analysis and predict. We've done a lot of work to make regression analysis usable, understandable, and interpretable by the everyday analyst. It's regression analysis. That tool works with the scatter plot matrix and also with the predict tool to complete the workflow. And this helps you understand correlations and then potentially even make a prediction off of that when the data supports it. On the back of all cards, there's these descriptive stats that you can customize as an analyst, but they give you a good description of what the data is in the card. Just hit that little I info button and flip the card over, and this is available as the analyst and the viewer. Like I had said previously, Python and R is directly integrated into Insights. It's useful for connecting to data sources that Insights does not natively support You can pull it in, and you can also pretty much perform any analysis out there. If there's a Python library that does an analysis, you can use it in Insights. You can actually embed that script into an Insights model so that it's completely available and seamless. And this is really a good example of where an Insights analyst can collaborate with a developer and use that tool that's developed. There's a session in this developer summit dedicated specifically to Python and R scripting within Insights, and I encourage you to check that out for a deep dive. So some examples of analysis, just real quick. If you wanted to understand where are 911 calls happening, and then based off of that, what's likely to happen in the future based on knowing how other variables change. Next, you can spatially filter and aggregate events and gatherings to understand, where things are happening, why, what's the pattern, and even enrich population data and see, where's the human impact, valuable for understanding the impact of on wildlife.
Okay. So here we have, the first thing I'm going to do here is you can see that I have my map card activated. And so I'm going to click on the action button. And the first thing I want to do is to create a buffer. And so I want a buffer to see where these locations are, to see if there's anywhere that, might be within walking distance of 1 minute from each other. So I'm going to hit that and I'm going to run. And you can see as I zoom in, some of these, it might be faster just to walk from one location to the other. The next thing I'm going to show you on the action button what Scott was talking about. So here we have quite a few things that we could do. We can do find nearest, enrich, do a spatial filter. And if you don't really necessarily know what tool you want, but maybe you know what question you want to ask, you can go into our questions to find answers. So how is it distributed? So we suggest to use the following tools like the spatial aggregation, the view histogram, view box plot. Same goes for how is it related. You could use the chord diagram, link chart, regression models. And what's nearby is find nearest, create buffers, spatial filter, as well as how's it change. So you could calculate the percent change, you could view data clock, you could create a time series. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to enrich the data. We had pointed out that those from 1995 were strong users of this. So I want to enrich the data to find out where those users are. I'm going to find the age, and I'm specifically going to target those 25-year-olds. I'm going to apply that, and I'm going to accept the rest of the defaults and run that. Now back comes a layer called enrich, and this layer, you can see when I open it up, now shows you the total population, ages of 25 to 29. I'm going to take that field and I'm going to drag and drop it onto our USA block group and do a spatial aggregation to find out where these users are located. While that's running, I'm going to create a link map by taking the start location, the end location, and the total time that they spend on these bikes, and I'm going to drag and drop it to a new map. So you can see we've created a link map here. You can see the relationships between the start locations and end locations. I can also add directional flow so you can see which way the bikes are headed. And now that you can see that the spatial aggregation has come back, I want to stylize that so that it is done in counts and amounts color. And when I look at the legend here, you can see that and I can zoom in, you can see that most of the 25-year-olds are in this location. So maybe we might want to make sure that we have enough bikes in that area, as well as maybe in this second area as well, this darker area. Now the last thing I want to do is I want to briefly show you Python or an R script. So I'm opening up my scripting console, and I'm going to add an R script. So this is one that I've previously made, and we're going to create a violin plot. I'm going to open this script, and this script is basically taking 2 fields, and it's just basically plotting a violin plot. So what I have to do is I do have to populate my fields, and so I need the user type here, and I need the total time. I'm just going to drag that and drop it onto my script, and I'm going to run my script. As that runs, it comes back and you can see it's created a violin plot. It looks like we have a lot of subscribers that don't necessarily take as much time as the few customers on these bikes. Maybe that's because the customers are just touring the area and the subscribers know exactly where they want, and they want on and off, and that's it. So this is an interesting card. I want to add that to my workbook now, and what I do is I just click on the Create Card button, and it's added to my workbook. I'm going to close this scripting console down, and you can see that card has been added, and I'm just going to move that down to prepare for my next demo. I'm going to hand it back to you, Scott, to see how we can get this to users.
Thanks, Dara. All right, so we did some pretty interesting analysis. We feel like we uncovered some information, understand where those highest subscribers and basically bike riders live. Let's get some of this into the hands of those who can use that information, both from a model perspective and an information product. We want to be able to, tell our story and have this analysis available to others. So you do that, again, by sharing a page to viewers. It's an interactive report, dashboard, information product, whatever you want to call it. Analysts, get them the model. That model can be reused, rerun on their own data. Maybe it's a quarterly update, maybe it's a different region. And then the data. We talked about how that data can be kicked out and used by other systems as well. That model can at any time be rerun. So this little update button here, that's what allows you to rerun that piece of the tool chain or piece of the model. And when you add a potentially new data set, we even have a field mapping option where you can tell the model if your data's changed slightly. Really think that it's important to finish your report. Don't let your viewers misinterpret what you've created. Make it understandable. And you do this with Insights. You can save everything that you create as a theme. And so once you set it up, reuse it for other reports, apply it to other reports and pages. And you can do things like, put your branding on there, your logo. What are your organization's colors? Make it look and feel authoritative. Where'd the data come from? Who are the authors? Give credit where it's due. And then even pull in reference material, other media, videos, images, hyperlinks. You can embed, whether those images are, on a web page. Textual descriptions of, hey, this is what you're looking at, and tell a story.
Okay. So here back in my workbook, I kind of want to add a few things before I go ahead and share it. So one of the things I want to add is a predefined filter. Now a predefined filter will allow my users who are using the page to filter it down a little bit more. So here I'm going to add a predefined filter so that they can maybe select to see if there's a difference in gender, the usage for genders. So here I'm going to select member gender. I'm not interested in no data, so I'm going to add that by value. I'm going to give my predefined filter a title. And you can see when I filter that out, you know, up here in the map, you can the link map, you can see that in this area up here, there were quite a few lift rides or lift bikes going on, but there's only a very few amount of females. If you can see, if I turn on the males, there's quite a few more. Now, everything that we've done up until this point has been recorded, just like Scott was saying. So if I flip over to the analysis view, it'll tell you everything that we've done. So here we've added, you can see that this is what we did at the beginning. We added the USA block group, and we added the bike data. We calculated the field. We added some location. You can see we've done some spatial filter. We've enriched the data, and we created several map cards. There's a chart card, we've added the predefined filter. So this has all been recorded with the model. Now I'm going to go back to my page view, and I'm going to share this model. I'm going to go to the bottom of the page, I'm going to share as, I'm going to select model, and I'm going to give it a nice name, give it a description, and I'm going to share that. Now, to use the model, I'm going to show you within the same workbook. It doesn't have to be in the same workbook. What you need to do is go to I'm going to add it to the page. I'm going to go to the Models tab, and I'm going to find the model. Bike rental model is what I added. Now, I'm going to add the same data that I was using, but you can use different data and plug it in. And you can see that it's brought it in. Everything's blank at this time. If you go to the analysis view, you'll see the same thing. These models, they're all blank here. And you can update it from the analysis from the page view or from this side. So right now I'm going to update it from here. So this was the block group. This was the bay wheels data. I'm going to update that, and you can see it's working away. Now, while that's working away, you can see on the front page it's working away. So while that's working away, I'm going to go back to my original page. I hope that you'll trust me that that finishes out. But what I want to do is now kind of pretty it up so that others can see my analysis results. And so what I'm going to do is, previously I had created a theme, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add and go to the theme. And now this theme for me is adding a title, it's adding some images, it's adding some color. And so the theme is called Bike Rental Theme. I'm going to add that to my page. And you'll see that when it's added in, it automatically styles the whole page to give it the background, it gives it the title, it's added my resources in here, and an image. But it's the same page, it has still the same data, it's just prettied up a bit. And now to do this on your page, to set it up in the first place, you can go to each of the card settings and you can set it on each of the cards. So this would do the background color of the card, or the border color and border width, or you can do it at the page settings up here at the top right. Again, the background color and the foreground color. So now I'm ready to share it. There's several ways to share this actual page. So I'm going to go again, share as, and I'm going to go to page, and I'm going to do bike rental bikes. I'm going to give it a description, and I'm going to share that. And this is going to take a little bit of time. So in the interest of doing this, I've pre-shared this, and so this is what a shared page looks like for your users. You can see that there is no data pane on the right hand side, and they have a limited use of the tools that are available to them. But the interactions still are the same. We have set up the predefined filter so that we can filter it. They can filter it by either male, female, or other. But the interactions again are the same.
So you could just copy paste that URL and send it to anybody?
Yes.
Cool.
So the last thing I want to do is, I'm going to cancel that out. I want to talk about, because this is desktop, if I go back to, if I save this and then I go back to the home page, you can see this is the bike rental workbook that I've been working on. What I can do is say I want to get Scott to be able to access my workbook.
I want to get that workbook.
Yeah, I know you do. So I'm going to export this workbook and give it to, it packages up the workbook as a zip file, and it's going to give it to, and I'm going to email it to Scott. So Scott has that workbook. Are you ready,
I'm ready
to bring it in?
I thanks for emailing me that workbook. I've been itching to get my hands on it. So I'm in Insights Desktop. This is me. What do I do? Import workbook. So here's this export that you just created for me, Dara. Thanks for passing it along. And we'll see. Boom, here it is. So now this workbook, what does it have in it? Everything. It's got the data, it's got the models, it's got the analysis. And you'll notice how it's churning through, chugging away. It's even got the Python script plugging away. It's rehydrating all that analysis that was happening, kind of one at a time. It's going through and basically rebuilding it all. And from here, this is mine. It's a copy. I can go ahead and do everything that Dara had showed us. Extend this. So yeah, pretty powerful.
Yeah, and this is available in desktop today. This is March 13th, 2020. And it will be coming to Enterprise, for the export and import will be coming to Enterprise and online, hopefully by UC.
Mm-hmm. July-ish. Yeah. Okay. So let's start to maybe close her down a little bit, wrap it up. Just to summarize, what do we see today? Hopefully this got communicated to you. Insights, what it does, it allows you to do both spatial and non-spatial analysis and access those two types of data in one spot. Add context to your data with new content, whether that's enriching or spatially enabling, or getting access to your geo assets that are in your enterprise org or online org or Living Atlas. Taking all the complex data that you might have in your business systems, breaking it down, filtering it, exploring it, and really finding the right questions to ask. Once you do have those questions, performing that analysis. And that analysis shouldn't be difficult. If Insights doesn't have something that you're looking for, kick it over to the Python and R and pull that in. And then lastly, but maybe, up there with the most important, is to visualize, communicate all that stuff that you just did visually and interactively to those that can benefit from what you did. We've been typically releasing about 4 times a year. This year we might have about 3 releases. Some things that are newer, we've added some new chart types, point charts, stacked percent bar chart. Desktop is now in final. Our Python and R is in final. We have now support for domains and subtypes. That's huge. If your data in a geodatabase has domains and subtypes, we'll honor that. A lot of stuff went into these last few releases. We have a lot of things planned for the next release, as Dara had said, maybe June, July-ish time frame. And at the top of that list is scheduled refresh of analysis. We've done a lot of work for accessibility for disabled persons. And when the SQL Server database has OS database authentication, honor it. SharePoint and OneDrive data connectors. We've done a lot of work in the presentation aspect of Insights so that we improve card labeling and ordering. And And last but not least, there's a lot on here. We were doing a lot. The analysis, spatial means, clustering, kernel density, calculate geometry, and there's lots more coming. We want to hear from you. Please don't be shy. Let us know what you want in Insights, because we're building the thing for you. There's 2 links here that I encourage you to check out. Training and success stories. Maybe from success stories, see what others have done, see how they've learned from it and benefited from it. And training. We have some learn lessons that'll actually take you through step by step, and I think that's a very, very useful way to get educated on the product. If you don't have Insights, you can get it. Try the free trial, and it's there at the top of our webpage. Remember, we had talked about Insights desktop download being accessible here in the deployment options. Here's the gallery with those examples. A lot of the resources that we had talked about, training and the case studies, and then that free trial is there for you to use too. With that concludes our session. So appreciate you listening. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.